Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh, and today I've got with me my co-hosts, Denham and Dustin, in the hot seats. What's going on, gentlemen?
Howdy, howdy.
Not much.
All right. Today we are going to be talking about that fundamental part about playing tabletop Battletech, and that is how to pick your mechs for the lance and how to pick the right variant for the right job. But as always, to get that battle mech coolant flowing, we've got some hobby news, some hobby progress, and some fan mail. Denham, I think you had more hand in this next one, so I'll let you introduce.
Oh yeah, on April Fool's, April 1st, Catalyst did release the Pseudotech Arcade Operations book. They did specifically say that even though it was an April 1st release, because Catalyst does like to do their silly releases, they did the Urban Mech LAM 1 year. They did a Shadowrun Battletech crossover adventure. They did that twice, actually. Those were both actually fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
But all of these were April 1st releases, and they wanted to make sure that everyone understood that although they put it out on April 1st, and it is a silly product, it is not like an April Fool's joke, and it's they put a lot of love into this one. I did do play testing on it. I had a lot of fun. Definitely not an all the time playing type thing, but so much of a hey, we're bored. We want to do something fun and silly, or Dustin's had 3 beers already, so we can't have a serious game. But let's do this.
That's just getting serious. That's when I enter the zone.
It's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of the old video game tropes and makes it into a Battletech kind of virtual arena type of scenario.
I mean, there's an Scout being slapped by.
They're definitely having a slap fight on the cover,
which is awesome.
Yeah, that is a thing. You have some solid snake sneaking missions. You've got the boss fights. You've got some platforming missions. You've got Mechtress, which is like a Tetris type of thing.
What?
I know. You'll have to.
I haven't looked at this book.
So they have it on both the Catalyst store and Drive-Thru RPG, and the Drive-Thru RPG will have a print-on-demand option
there
soon.
You go.
And these are free.
No, they're not free. They're
okay.
$4 for the digital versions.
Okay. I could have swore the last one, the Imperator Rex one, last April Fool's one.
Most of the April Fool's stuff are free. They put a lot of work into this one. I'm assuming that with as much work as they put into this, they couldn't justify putting it out for free, nor should they. Like it's a good product. Maybe not for everybody, but for those who like a little bit of silly, it's nicely done. It's well put together. Playtesting, everybody I play tested it with not only thought it was a blast, but they definitely want to play more.
I mean, it's got an album art done by, it looks like Elidonius Rex's stuff. So, I mean, got to pay the art guys, so.
They didn't pay us play testers, but we do it out of love.
I mean, do play testers ever make money? Oh, they probably do. No? Okay.
All right. We had some book releases. Didn't we have a book release? We don't talk about books enough here.
Elements of Treason, Duty, the 195-page Ill Clan era novel. It seems to tie into the latest source book. I read the back cover on the bookstore or whatever, and it definitely ties into the whole Tamar Pact,
the Tamar Rising source book
stuff. Yeah. There's actually just a staggering amount of stuff to read in the BattleTech universe. That's why we do book club. Shout out to book club. If you want to read books, join us for book club.
What are you reading this time?
Oh, we're going to do the proliferation cycle. So This is the introduction of the Mackie and the genesis of the battle mech.
So all 6 novellas.
Yep. We have a tab on the Discord. Join us at the Discord. And I started it because I need to read my fiction, and having a due date always helps. So
yeah. And the due date for that one is the 15th of May, if I'm correct, right?
Yep. So 1 p.m. Eastern. So that turned into a full-blown advertisement, but there you go.
Good job, though. All right, so that's pretty much it for news. Let's move to some hobby progress. What's been on our tables lately? We'll start with Dustin.
I've been a bad boy. I don't know. I've been mostly trying to understand how electricity works in components on a breadboard, but I did paint some Fire Warriors for 40K.
As I'm loading the pistol behind
Yeah, I know. I did paint like 6 Free Worlds League mechs. That was my prior like hobby progress or stuff. So catch a little break. It's been tough to get a game in, so my hobby progress fire is embers right now. But I'll get a couple games in and I'll get painting. But that's what I've been up to. How about you?
So hobby progress. I've been getting my comm guards painted. Recently, I got everything I owned, base coated, and now I'm slowly going back. And as we went through our hobby motivation episode, if it dies, it has to get a full paint job, and I'm taking that to heart. So my poor Black Knight, died in the last game I played, so I have to actually.
No, what happened?
Oh no, what happened? They all ask. Yeah, right. It got we'll save that for games played.
There we go.
But yeah, so I'm actually putting paint onto my comm guards. I wrestled with the essentially just white with more white dry brushing, and I've decided to go a little bit more color like the art in the Battle for Tukiad book.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so they've got a lot like gray hands and gray shoulders and knee pads, so it definitely breaks up the white outline. It's growing on me. I don't love it at first, but it's growing on me.
I know I was not here for the hobby episode or the painting episode, but I thought you were supposed to paint mechs that did well on the battlefield. They earned their paint, so to speak.
No. That was specifically to give you an out where you can bring a mech to the battlefield once before you paint it, but you cannot bring it out again if it was damaged without giving it a full paint job, like a full complete paint job.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's my hobby punishment, essentially. What about you, Denham? What have you been painting lately?
On our last episode with Mike and Dan, they did recommend a spot brush for my Smoke Jaguars, and I did pick some of those up, and I got some of the paint thinner they talked about, and it is amazing.
What's a spot brush?
It's a brush that's done in a specific way where you just put just a tiny little bit of paint, but it makes different shaped spots and different size spots. Huh. So instead of me trying to freehand a spot, I just go blip, 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 and it's a bunch of different sized and shaped spots for my Smoke Jaguars, and it looks good. I am so happy. So shout out to them.
Look at that. That entire episode is, touched one person that we know of right now.
Look, that made it worth it for me, and that's all that matters.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think Smoke Jaguars and maybe Ghost Bears would probably
Ghost Bears.
The best. Yeah,
Ghost Bears have some mechs with spots. I haven't seen a couple others that I didn't think would have had spots. I'll have to go back and find out what those are. But yes, especially Smoke Jags and Ghost Bear.
Dustin, have you gotten any games at all of anything in?
No, I'm starting to get desperate. We got Easter weekends. I got to do stuff with the kiddos, but hopefully the weekend after that, I'll be able to get something in.
That's why you drop your kids off. You drop your kids off at the local military academy. Get them trained in their mech combat. Start them young.
Start them young, just like the clanners do.
Yeah. Get them in their Sibcos. What about you, Denham? What have you done?
The last couple weeks at the game store, we've been running clan trial of positions and getting people ranked up in their whatever clan they like to be in.
I'm a Rise Star.
We had one guy that was going for Star Colonel. Like we had the two people going at the same time, and he got Star Captain.
Nice.
And he decided his mech was in pretty good shape, and he was going to go for the Star Colonel. So he initiated a grand melee.
Ooh.
And he fired on one guy, missed with everything but one weapon.
Uh-oh.
The Timberwolf fired back at him. He had to make a piloting roll, failed, and fell on his head, breaking his cockpit and killing him.
Oh no!
Yeah, so he has to start over because his pilot, like if his mech was just destroyed, that's fine. He would have been a Star Captain,
right.
But because his pilot got squished, he has to start over.
Womp.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking because he was on the verge of getting Star Colonel. Anyway, so all the people who are getting ranks, what we've been doing,
it'll be in the remembrance.
Yep, exactly. But what we've been doing with those people is having a set of inner sphere forces on a map, And then the people with clan ranks get to bid. So they get like a trinary to start with, and they're just bidding down to what forces they think they can take it. And then fighting that. So it's a lot of fun. We're not so concerned about BV balance because the honor comes with, beating them with the fewest amount of forces.
That's right.
And if it turns out that your BV is actually lower than the inner sphere forces and you win, you get bonus points.
Efficiency.
Yeah, it's surprisingly fun. I didn't expect it to be that engaging, but people love it. It started off really small, and now lots of people are very excited about getting into the bidding. So that's what I've been doing recently.
Josh?
Oh, I was going to say, is this something we want to do with the people on the Discord server? Start seeing who's the best star captain, star colonel, star commander?
I'm all for it. Yeah, bring it.
All right. For me, I played a 14,000 BV Comstar versus Clan Wolf, I think.
Oh, did they bid to see who got the lowest amount to fight you?
Yes, they bid. This is when I do I'm the only person I know that could be unhappy getting exactly what they want. But yeah, so that was a big game. That was 2 level 2s against 4 mechs. And
right, they were a trinary and they bid down to 4 mechs.
Yes, and clan players, man, how do you take? If I'm moving 12 units.
Preaching to the choir here, Josh.
Moving 12
Preaching
units,
to the choir.
I'm taking less time than they do to move 4 mechs.
I'm with you. I feel your pain.
I love them, but sweet Blake Almighty.
Sweet Blake.
And yet they still didn't get close to the airport that you were guarding, did they?
No. I think that was the issue. I think there was too much like, oh, there's so many. If we rush the objective or do anything, we'll get shot. And I'm like, cool. Then I'll just walk into your deployment zone, and you're gonna let me. So by the end of it, it's like, yeah. By the end of it, it's like, yeah, I've lost 1 level 2, but I've pushed you into your deployment zone. Like,
yeah, they turn around to get into their dropship, and you're up there waiting for them.
Yeah. So that kind of just reiterates, like, you need a discrete objective for your clan players to not just sit back, because
Live and learn.
The star is just gonna walk up and like, got plenty of bodies. Someone stop me. But yeah, that was my big game. Other than that, just some Mega Mech against one of our patrons. I played Stahlkater and played against his Proto Mech Society list.
Ooh.
That was vicious. How'd
it go?
I lost all of my units. I underestimated Protomechs. I will say that first and foremost.
Oh, really? You see, I've never seen him on the table, never used him.
He had some Protomechs and a Minsk, and oh my gosh, I also underestimated the Minsk.
See, I've got some Protomechs. I have never fielded them, but I have them.
Yeah, they were great for spotting, like I said, the Minsk double Gauss, and just, oh my god. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, is that? I think I have one of those. Anyways.
It's like a Warhammer, but clanner.
Yeah. He's got stubby arms. That's the miniature.
Yeah.
You're playing Mega Mech. Never mind. Yeah, I think I have Minsk.
So those are my 2 games in the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
And yeah, other than that, not a whole lot. I'm looking forward to getting the mechs I have painted out onto the table. I've got a bunch of stuff that will be coming, which will come up for the Battletech calendar. But first, let's get some fan mail in. We got 2 fan mails this week. This is from Cancho Joe. Cancho Joe writes, "Hey guys, I absolutely love the podcast. Found it back in February and have listened to every episode. As a new Battletech player, I really appreciate what you're doing."
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, you're a listener. I appreciate what you're doing.
All right. He says, I have a couple hopefully easy questions for you guys. Do you do anything to remove the creases on the paper maps? If you do, how do you do it? And secondly, I just bought a 3D printer for pretty much the sole purpose of printing terrain for Battletech. Do you guys design your own STL files, or did you buy them from somewhere like Steel Warrior Studios? Thanks for your time, and thanks for the podcast.
All right. I've got an answer for both of those.
Same.
Go Denham.
All right. So paper map creases. I used to be very adamant about trying to get my maps flat, and I rolled them up afterwards. What I ended up doing back in those days was I would spray them lightly with water, and it turns out that I had access to a t-shirt press. So, something that you'd put iron onto a t-shirt, and to put that in there, that's, just a little bit of water on it, and turn up the heat and press that, it would take the creases out so well, in fact, that I use that for posters to this day. Anytime
Nice.
I get posters like from Catalyst that are folded up, that's what I do. And it comes out looking great.
Yeah. I'm going to have to bring my posters over to your place.
But lately, the fold-up maps, the paper maps, I keep them folded to go in boxes for easy storage and easy transport. I do not worry about that at all. And I use the neoprene maps so much that, they don't have any creases. So I have not decreased a map in a long time.
Is that even an answer then? Get a t-shirt press?
No, okay.
Use neoprene?
Here's the other. All right.
I got the other answer.
Do you use an iron?
No, just embrace the crease.
Oh, no. He's not asking about embracing.
Okay, so no,
instead of a t-shirt
both of you have used your reasons.
Okay.
All right.
There you go.
All right. Get like a towel or something. Put it on top of the map, like on a table or something. Put the towel on it. Then get your iron, your clothing iron. Make sure the towel's a little wet, and you're essentially just going to run it over, like you're essentially steaming it.
Yeah, you're steaming. Oh,
you're not
nice.
gonna direct contact on the map. You're just gonna have like a little layer of fabric, so the hot, humidity gets the creases out. Then they're golden. That's it. That's all you.
That's true. Yep. All right.
Don't use a t-shirt press.
It's the same thing as a t-shirt press, just slower.
Crease.
It's just faster. The t-shirt press is faster.
I'm sorry. Let me look around.
To
Who has
melt
a t-shirt press?
You have to melt the lignin in the wood fibers to
Yeah, pretty much.
get it flat.
Either that or, put it in the dryer for like 2 cycles. I'm tempted now to do this. I will report back. Like fully unfold it. Put it gently, maybe blue tack it to the wall.
You're still going to need some moisture though.
Yeah. So I know Denham and I both 3D print plenty of terrain.
I acquire my STLs from Steel Warrior Studios for the BattleTech terrain, just because A, it looks so good, B, it's designed for BattleTech maps and hex maps, or for Alpha Strike, they have an option to take the hexes off now, which is always a bonus, and it is designed for miniatures to be able to fit securely on any surface. So if it's like a building or a ramp, you won't have any of that uneven
wobbly stuff.
Yeah, the wobbly stuff where your minis will fall off. Steel Warrior Studio is very, very nice, very good choice.
Yeah, you're mostly talking about the Thunderhead Studios stuff from Steel Warrior Studios.
Yes.
I think Steel Warrior Studios does carry a couple other lines by different designers. The Thunderhead Studios stuff I also like because the hexes are integrated, kind of stylishly into the top of the terrain, so you can keep track of where your mechs actually are if you're playing hexed. There's some Hardware Studios stuff out there too. I would say that's probably better for, miniature style, without hexes. Good looking buildings. But yeah, 3D printing terrain is great.
I do not have the time to make my own.
Nobody has time for that.
Yeah,
nobody has time for that.
I will pay Thunderhead to design them for me.
Yeah, he does a great job.
He does.
But yeah, thanks again, Kancho Joe. Keep on listening.
Thank you.
All right. And our next one is addressed to Dear Josh, Dustin, and Denham. This is Carrie Kradecki Heritage. Carrie writes, I hope this recently priced HPG transmission finds you well. Regarding a previous Listener House ruling that the loser of the initiative must execute all weapons fire before the winner of the initiative, my group does the opposite. For us, the winner of the initiative must execute all weapons fire without rolling crits yet before the loser of initiative then executes their weapon fire. After all weapons fired for both players are resolved, everyone then rolls crits. This helps mitigate prior knowledge of knowing that your ammo bin has just been hit. We find that 90% of the time, winning initiative is still vastly superior to losing initiative. But at least this way, losing initiative 3 rounds in a row sucks a lot less fun out of the game. And whenever you lose initiative, there's a little compensation prize for you to look forward to. We also find it speeds up our games, particularly when playing with more than 4 units aside. Love the podcast, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah, that would definitely speed up the game. But if you're not concerned about just the speed, when you roll a crit for a weapon hit is actually very important and very specifically set out in the rules for a reason. And that's because if you get a crit on an arm and blow it off, there's no more damage going to that arm, so it's actually going into the torsos.
Oh,
and
that's interesting.
and so if you don't roll their crits as the weapon gets them, you're actually robbing yourself of a lot of potential damage.
That's an interesting thought. I did not think of that when I was thinking about this email. Yeah, I mean, house rules are house rules. Yeah, definitely play the way you want to play.
Initiative is bad.
Well, yes, we all have lost initiative like 5 or 6 turns in a row, and it's rough.
Sorry, you've literally played me in how many turns? How many turns did I lose initiative?
5. I think 5.
Was it just 5?
It might have been 6.
The 5 that mattered, right?
Yeah. And it's rough. Yeah. So I really want to play with the initiative deck. I need to see if they're selling those like in the open these days. That
Denham is shaking his head no on the audio only experience.
They're sold out right now. I think it came on and I bought the last one.
Oh yeah.
You bought the last 50,
well, it's the extra one for me, right?
I mean, I got one right here.
I mean, you just bring it next time. Well, I want to play with it. Yeah, I hesitate to, make an opinion without actually doing the house rule, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I've got no problems with the house rules. I just want people to be aware that when they do use house rules, they now are not playing the game as intended. So if things don't work out properly, it's not the fault of the game necessarily.
Sure.
Though oftentimes the fact that you speed up the game kind of supersedes any weird like side case issues that
it does help.
Come up.
And we do house rule because I know that I play with a lot of my opponents where we do a pseudo declaration where we just declare targets and whether or not you're overheating and not necessarily which gun is going where, etc. So
we do the Alpha Strike version.
Yeah.
I'll get to the weapons when they're important.
Right. Yeah. So I just kind of which does require a little bit of honesty between you and your opponent.
Any house rule to initiative changes something. As long as you're okay with that something, it's perfectly acceptable.
Yep.
Just like Denham said.
That's right. Just like I said.
Ooh, we have a calendar section nowadays.
Oh my. Where have you been?
I've been gone.
This is the first one he's been in like 3, I think.
Yeah. I've been in space.
It hurts. It's true. But yes, we have a calendar section, Mr. Dustin. And that calendar can be found
where?
In the show notes for every episode. That's right. Just click the show description on whatever format you're listening to. If you're on the HVG software, just like and you're hitting play, just hit the description, like show more. And that has a link to the Google Doc that me and several other Battletech podcasts all have access to. So everyone knows when there's an event going on.
There's quite a number of events. I clicked on that link and I saw the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Right now, as of recording, there are 14 events going on.
Woo!
Yeah.
Woo!
We have I'd like to say some big 3 going on later this year. And we have the Nova Open, which was just recently announced. And myself and Denham will be there in Washington, D.C. playing a 2-day Battletech tournament.
There are still plenty of openings, so, sign up, get a ticket, join us. Join us.
We have our first, I want to say more official in the sense of I would be aware of this. So if you've played Warhammer, you're used to Frontline Gaming. They will be putting on the Atlantic City Open in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And they'll be playing classic Battletech using Wave 1 and Wave 2 battle mechs. Yeah.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah, I looked at a format for that. It's very different. It's very, very true to the rules. Everyone essentially gets a 3-4 pilot and then for free. And you get to use all your Wave 1, Wave 2, or your Wolf's Dragoons packs. So only new plastic, essentially.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Keep the aesthetic nice.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And fresh and new.
Then we have
NashCon?
We have NashCon going on in, of course, Nashville, Tennessee. And they'll be doing Alpha Strike and Classic Battletech there. And they'll be using the MRC format, which you have to ask yourself, what is the MRC format?
I do have to ask myself that.
Yeah, each player has a ranking. It's matchmaking. It's like matchmaking scores.
Yeah. That's great.
So so those are some, what I'm going to say is the big 3 we've got on there right now, but we've got plenty more. So like I said, we've got another 14 events on the calendar. So take a look, see what's close by, and get out and play some Battletech. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll see what's actually in the hangar for us to roll out on the battlefield today. And for some store news, for our listeners that like the salvage boxes but want to know what they are getting, Fortress Miniatures and Games has restocks on their single mech inventory. So there's no need to buy the whole lance or risk it to chance when you can get that lone command mech to lead you into battle. While you're there, check out the updated inventory of brand new release decals from Fighting Piranha Graphics. And from Ares Games and Miniatures, we have a new inventory of Chessex dice and dice bags to match your brand new unit paint schemes. Plus, we know that your dice go bad, they lose their luck, and it's time to get a new one, so why don't you treat yourself? But if that wasn't enough, they have restocks of a Game of Armored Combat up for all your Succession War needs. Your mech has reached the age where it doesn't back down from a challenge. This is the age of knowing how to make things happen, so why would you let something like Myomer dysfunction get in its way? Isn't it time to talk to your Aztec about Myomergra? 20 different Merc units already have. With every Succession War comes responsibility, so ask your Aztec if your reactor is reinforced enough for deployment. Side effects for Myomergra can cause trigger lag, spontaneous coolant flushing, sensor ghost, and structure overheating. Seek immediate refit if your Myomer is at triple strength for more than 4 hours. Myomergra, it's time to take back your home planet. So we just walked into the hangar, and we just picked up a bunch of new battlefield salvage, and the techs have stripped out all the gear. So there's nothing in them. They're just shells, blank slates. So the biggest question is how do you pick which variant, and how do you pick which ride to take into battle, and how does that go with the rest of your lance? So essentially, we're talking about lance building and variant picking.
Whichever one's got most AC2s.
Oh God. So anyway, so this is a question that was brought up by a listener, and it really is, how do you pick your mechs for when you're playing on the tabletop? And when you think about it, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mechs, and then there are dozens of variants for each of those mechs. So it's like, that's the whole reason why the random acquisition tables and charts exist, because it's hard to pick.
Oh, that's true. Like even the Tukid book that just came out, they don't expect you to build a force. They expect you to buy a weight class and then roll for the mech you get. And that's just what you get.
Yeah.
So answer number 1, bring out a rat, roll on this random table. There you go. That's the boring answer. All right. See you guys next week.
Yeah, right. Well, I start with a rat. I mean, there's a whole process for this when it comes to, I have probably a unique process for picking my mechs from the blister to the tabletop. And it starts with the rats, like Denham was saying. I will prime my mechs and then distribute them into the companies or paint schemes I am doing by checking rats and seeing where they go, so to speak, or where they're more likely to go or less likely to go. Because at the end of the day, I'm picking my lists from my painted mechs. So that's where I start. But and then I get into variants and list building after that. But
okay, so both of you are kind of saying you use rats, random acquisition tables, and I'd probably say the biggest, most well-known one is the Zodal's rats, which is XOTL rat.
Yeah.
And that is a, semi-official fan-made random acquisition table that has everything, I want to say up to like 3057 for Intersphere, Mercenary, and Clan, vehicles, and mechs.
Kind of Clan doesn't go into Civil War.
Too many mechs, too many pieces of equipment at that point.
Yeah. Well, you do find rats in some of the later source books, which is good you can get era-specific rats.
And Megamech does have a force building option where it will do a random force with the parameters that you set up depending on year and type. So there are solutions out there for that.
Oh, really? Megamech has you can select like Davian and go from there, sort of
Something like that. Yeah, I haven't used it too much, but I know that it exists and it's getting better all the time, like every release. And
you also always have the master unit list. I consult that as well, for sure.
Create random army, and then you get to pick year, FM, Draconis Combine. Essentially, it just brings out all of the different books that are available.
But then you put in a battle value and how many mechs you want, and it goes, blah, here you go. That's for how I do pickup games, though. For tournaments, my brain is so weird for tournaments. Like, it's a little broken. For a tournament, the first thing I do is find out what the battle value of the tournament is, and then I either divide it by 4 or 5, depending if I'm thinking of going with a lance or a star, and get the exact same mech to fill it out. So I have like 4 or 5 identical mechs that are the correct BV. And in my brain, I say, this is my baseline. And now I'm going to build something that can beat this. And that's like, if it can't beat that, then it's trash. And I need to start over and keep fiddling with it. And that way, like, it gets in, like, does this lance or this force beat this force in this sort of scenario? And so it takes me a lot longer to get through a force, but that's how I started. I need a baseline to work with and decide if whatever else I have is better than that.
I've written down here, the 3 main things are the aesthetics. Okay, does the mech look good? Like, am I going to use an ugly mech?
It doesn't
Not
hurt.
Normally. I'm going to use a good looking mech.
Let's be
when
real.
I'm picking out, things for my collection.
No. I was like, I don't care about that at all. I don't.
I've got balance and fluff. So is it, an OP cheesy mech? Well, there's not really much of those, but that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day.
Gundam tech.
Fluff, which is, going to Master Unilist, clicking your faction, seeing what's available to it, and trying to make a semi-lore friendly list. And the other one is BV restrictions. So you can't run your 4 Atlases in a 4K BV game. Just doesn't work, my friend.
See, you've got it in the exact opposite. I go BV restrictions first, then balance and fluff, and I throw aesthetics out the window. But you have it the exact opposite.
But I have the groups.
You do.
Those are the main ways that people pick mechs.
I would agree. Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of weight things differently, but anyhow.
I mean, everyone's going to be a little different on this. You've got the hobbyist kind of player aesthetics. You've got the lore friendly person who, of course, is going to use, like I said, make a lore friendly force from either a rat or Master Lunas.
And you got
the
more competitive. Yeah, the more competitive tactician who's going to use,
the good stuff.
The good stuff. And then you've got the efficiency, the lemon squeezer, who's going to build exactly to BV. They got 1,300 BV to work with. They're going to get to 1,299.
No,
they're going to be unhappy. Exactly.
We had a lemon squeezer at the tournament, and I was 5K, and they brought a 5K list and literally told me that's part of the fun. So yeah, they had fun in the list building phase, building to precisely 500, 5K.
And now we go a step deeper, and it's like, how do we pick those mechs to fit all of those? That's why we're here, to talk about how to fill that. I
mean, if you broke, for me, hobby is 50% of the game and playing is the other 50%. And then you broke that other 50% down. List building is like, what's that percentage for you? What's the list building phase? I think it's like 70% for you.
You wouldn't be wrong.
I know that we're technically allowed to use anything to substitute for a mech. Mm-hmm. But I like to own the mech that I'm going to bring. Like with my process, so I've got the BV broken out, but when I start to refine it, that's where the fluff comes in, and I tend to start with Kurita, see what I can build with just Kurita units, and specifically just Kurita units that I own.
Yeah, and Josh, you'll pick up mechs to fill in your list, especially for a competitive game, right?
Yeah, I have like a couple core. Like if I'm building a lance, I'll have
Black Knight.
I hate how he's right. I hate it, but I can't deny it. They hated him because he told the truth. I will have a core couple mechs. Like on a lance, I'll have 2 core, and a level 2, I'll have 3. Like I try to have about 50% that it stays roughly the same. I'm always taking them. I've mechs that I've kind of mastered. Probably have like 3 or 4 variants that I know, like off the top of my head, I can fire these 3 guns and they hit hits this level, and I don't have to have the mental strain of like working that out. And those other 2 mechs, the other 50%, I'll be like, okay, what do I need for the mission or the objective or the tournament? Like, if I know what I'm playing against, if I know what I'm there to do, then I'll use those other parts of the lance to do those specifically. Because a mech that you've mastered is probably worth more than a mission-specific mech.
Yeah. We've got an amount of brain space we can dedicate to a game or a tournament, and less calories you have to burn on cooking math, Battletech math, that you're going to perform in the long run.
I agree with all that.
Yeah.
This has become a more relevant of a question now that we're moving into the Ill Clan era. Is time period the biggest factor? Like, there are mechs and variants that are extinct. How do you feel picking mechs that are just like 100 years out of date to play?
It depends. I mean, mechs that are older, I can always hand wavium that into my army. It can be found in a or one of those Brian caches or something like that. But a mech that's hasn't been invented yet, I'm not going to, even if the tournament allows for that. If I've got a particular time period in mind, I'm not going to get one that hasn't been invented, but I'll get one that is technically extinct. I don't have a problem with that.
If there's like an era limit or whatever, clearly you're going to pick from that or before or whatever. But I similarly, if a mech chassis was ever popular with a faction, and I do build my lists even, competitively from a faction perspective, like I'm in the time period, if we're playing Ill Clan, it would make sense to have mixed, technologies and stuff like that. But if we're not, I'm going to stick to the fluff to an extent. And then if they ever had a mech and it's extinct, I'll throw that in there. I'm not going to throw 3 or 4 of them in there, but yeah, I'll throw 1 mech in and just, it's salvage because they would have had that on that planet or something like that. But I do try to stick to the fluff to an extent. I'm like 50-50 on that.
Yeah. And one of the things, even though it sounds counterintuitive, the fewer choices I have, the more creative my brain seems to be. So if I've just got access to everything, I'll just stare at it for way too long. But if I start saying, paralysis. Oh, yeah, exactly. But if I start like limiting it, I only want it to be Capellan Confederation. I only want to use, mechs from this era or below. And I only want to use like so many snipers. Then I start limiting things and my brain starts kicking into overdrive like it's solving a puzzle, and decisions come faster that way for me. So artificial constraints seem to get my creative juices going.
No, I mean, I think all of us as wargamers kind of like here's the level that you need to reach, whether it be, like I said, BV, era, or, mission. And it's like finding stuff to fill that, to get as close to what we think is optimum, is half the fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. List building phase it's a part of, it's part of the game.
It's part of the game you can play by yourself.
It is. And it's fun. Like, that's what we're here for, folks.
Yeah. And I will agree with you, Dustin, that I have to use prior fluff knowledge. Like, I can't trust the rat 100%. I can't trust MUL 100%. Like, recently I was trying to build a Blessed Order Comstar list, the Dark Age Comstar list. And it's like, okay, they got these cool mechs. And I was like, and I'm scrolling down alphabetically. I'm Avatar, Blade, Dasher. I'm like, excuse me, there's another mech that starts with a B that should only ever be used by Comstar there, and I'm not finding it. It's like, I don't care how many forces were there. You're telling me they had no Black Knights? I don't care what variant.
There was a Black Knight.
Yeah. They've got 12 different versions of Mad Cats, but they don't have a Black Knight.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
It's not the mech you deserve. It's the mech you want.
So, like I said, rats and MULs, they're great. They'll get you 90% of the way there, but they're not going to get you 100%. So if you're picking a mech, you kind of got to use a little bit of that prior knowledge, kind of historical guesswork to see what they would have. And then you can pick from that.
And you got it on the shelf. It's painted, Yeah. If it's allowed if it's a pickup game or a tournament game, there's typically still list restrictions, even for a pickup game. So, yeah.
So that's pretty much how to pick mechs. Like I said, kind of from a lore like list building perspective. But how do we fill? Like we're all saying we'll look on the shelf and we'll pick from what we have and what we've kind of mentally said that X mech is X faction. So I've painted it for that.
Right.
Like I said, we've got a BV level, arbitrary number. We've got an era. Now let's fill it out. How do you fill? Do you fill from the biggest BV portion? Do you fill from biggest damage? Do you fill like from the cheapest? Or do you fill like mission specific first?
I'm interested to hear your answers to this question. Yeah.
I do. I specifically take a mech that I'm going to build the lance around. It may not always be the biggest BV, but most of the time it is. And then all the rest of the mechs support that one in one way or another. That's how I do it. So I guess I do mission specific and build around that for supporting units.
I mean, if I'm following my own rules, I'm only bringing 0.5 sniper mechs, and I'm always tempted to bring too much long range stuff. So I think, and I've never, you put me, or this episode put me on the spot. I typically start with my largest BV mech. So my centerpiece, what I'm most excited to put on the table, which let's be real is typically a heavy or an assault mech, usually like a heavy. And it's best if that's my anchor. If, listeners have listened prior, they'll know what I'm talking about. My anchor is that area of denial, the brawler, the big guy with all the guns and the armor. So usually the anchor anchors my list. So I'm picking that guy first. And then I fill out from there. Yeah. How about you?
Looking back for this, I realized I always go with the biggest damage person first.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like normally that is the highest BV, so it kind of goes with you, but it's the person that's going to do the most damage. Like the Black Knight in most of my lists is the most expensive, but it's also doing the most damage.
Right.
I'll go biggest damage because, well, most missions you can't win without killing something. So I need something that can do a little bit of that. Like that's an important job on the battlefield, people.
Gotta kill things.
Yeah. So I'll go like biggest damage first, and then I'll like reverse that and go biggest utility next.
Interesting.
If I put utility first, my brain kind of looks at it, the start, just the foundation of the list, and says, this is bad. Like this isn't going to do anything. So I have to put here's biggest damage, then here's utility or support mech or vehicle or whatever. And then my brain's kind of averaging the two.
Right. It makes sense though, because you get the mech that's going to do the damage, and then you pick the mechs that help it do that most efficiently or keep it from dying while it's doing its job.
Right.
My special ability is damage.
And then moving on from that first mech that I personally pick, which is, most battle value because it's the brawliest and tankiest typically.
Whoa.
and this is making me think I should really start the next time I build a list, or at some point in the future when I build a list, I should start with something that's like got medium armor and damage, but like excellent mobility, like something that can generate a 4-up with, or +4 to say in Warhammer, a +4 with jump jets or something like that.
Do you think starting with the most mobile?
Or just that, like, because I always bring at least one skirmisher, typically 2 skirmishers to the battle, and picking like a really nasty skirmisher might be a fun way to build my next list.
It's amazing because we've all built lists before, but we haven't always thought about our thought process until now.
Yeah, because I definitely like big guy, anchor, skirmishers, and then whatever BV I have left, I'm literally putting into Solaris Skunkworks, organized by battle value, and see what I got on the shelf from there. That's always the last step of my list making, and it's typically something small and fast, some sort of a, scout mech.
I did the same thing, but with Mega Mech. But yeah, same thing. I just type in the battle value. It's short by battle value, and I scroll down like, what are my options? What do I own out of this list?
And why don't I start, with my like best skirmisher? Might not be the highest battle value. Pick another skirmisher, and then like a scout mech, and then do it the other way around. Pick my anchor based on how much I got 2,000 or 2,200 BB left. This is interesting. Yeah, that's something to think about.
So you saying that you leave the last mech just for like the crumple down whatever will fit, and you shove it in. Like, all right, that gets me the rest of the way.
Yep.
Like, there's not a lot of thought past
Absolutely.
that.
No, there's
there's thought.
There's a ton of thought. There's a ton of thought. But I want to get as close as to the total point value as possible, because I don't want to lose a game and say, oh, well, that guy had 25 more BV than me. I was at a disadvantage. But that's also, and this is something that I have to really, really work on, is that mentality that BV is everything. Because I play a lot of games where I am definitely in the hole battle value wise,
right?
But I do okay because I'm using my mechs the way that they should be used. And if you can set the battlefield to your advantage, where like if a mech has weak armor or is slow, but it doesn't matter because of the way that you're using it on the field, you can oftentimes turn that into such an advantage that being 20 or 50 battle value low doesn't matter if you've got the mechs that work together properly.
See, and this is interesting. Because I don't really start sweating the BV until I'm like 40, 50 BV in the hole. And let's be relative here. We're talking like 5K and up.
Right.
So, yeah. So like, but if I'm missing 70, 80, I'm like, might be looking for a new variant. And that is another thing that you point out that is interesting to think about. Like, if you're using all the battle mechs that you're familiar with and you're like 120 battle value down, does that really matter? I don't know. Maybe not.
My go-to 5K list is 153 BV short without
no kidding.
it. And I won't on a normal day, I won't, to play with the gunnery or piloting. I'm just like, that's close enough. 150,
But it's mechs that you're very familiar with and you know how they work together.
Exactly.
So I think that takes I think
that's 3%. And a 5K game, I just pulled up the calculator, 3%. So yeah, 150 BV sounds like a ton. It's 3%.
But as wargamers, the lemons and the rocks have blood and juice.
You gotta squeeze them.
And it's horrible because I have seen like every tournament I've been in, somebody comes up with like 8 or 10 BV over the limit, and they're like, well, this is only like not even a full percent. And we're like, but the rules say this is the limit. But it's just a little, can I just bring like this? And I'm like, no, because
it's a slippery slope. Yeah. Next thing you're gonna know, we're gonna allow murder in the streets. Come on, man.
Come on.
It has to be a hard limit. You have to get more creative.
I'm like 3% too much? 4, 5? Where do we stop, people?
Where does it end?
It ends when you stop winning.
Oh, that's true.
It's true.
But yeah, for my Alpha Strike, I definitely did the limit squeezing in, 350 PV and got 350 exactly.
Let's be real though. That's easier to do with Alpha Strike because there are units that are 1 point.
Yeah.
Right? 2, 3, 4.
Then that's super easy.
Classic is, it can be tough.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like, what mechs do I have painted? Like, you gotta work within a couple hundred battle value. Maybe 200. 200. That's it. I just came up with 200. That's the limit, baby.
Nothing. Your list should always be 200 points within the stop time.
Yeah, because that's 4%. That 4% sounds like too much.
4%'s what is it? A locust?
Dustin's 4% rule.
Not quite. 200. Cheap mechs are like 400. That's an incredibly cheap mech. 400 battle value, and that's
a wasp. That's a stinger.
That's 8%. So
if you remember,
8% of 5K.
If you guys remember at that one tournament, I had a wasp and a stinger of the cheapest variety I could, just because the mechs that I wanted, the Marauder 2.
You picked the most expensive mech,
dude, and it was
that
worth
was allowable.
Yeah. I did well.
Yeah, you were running up, right?
It's not like the wasp and stinger didn't do anything either. They were effective.
Yeah, you can make 500 battle value work.
Effective at pissing me off.
Well, yes. But if you ask my brothers, that when I play a game, step 1 is to piss you off so that you don't think right. It works. Ask them.
I like that. Denham's step 1, make the other player grumpy. Josh's step 2, make the other player grumpy via destroying their favorite mech.
We're nice people, I promise.
Dustin just wants feelings from AC2s.
Right.
Feelings, long range.
That's right.
So we kind of talked on this. So biggest damage, biggest PV. Dustin, you said you want your skirmisher to kind of be the first one going forward?
No, usually I start with my anchor. The next time I do a list, I'll start with my favorites, like the hard skirmisher, because now I'm inspired.
So your anchor, that is kind of a role we've determined. It's like tough enough that it can, take shots, strong enough that it can punch people back, essentially.
And not too slow. I'm typically like a 4.6, maybe minimum, with some jump jets.
Minimum.
Yeah, minimum. Minimum, man. Yeah. And so that's typically where I start, and maybe I need to switch that up.
What about you?
I almost always have at least one striker in my army. Like the ones that are fast and hit hard, maybe necessarily not have a lot of armor, but they're mobile and they've got a good weapon or weapons.
Denham's like, I'm here for the JR7F, and I'm not leaving without it.
But yeah, the ones I end up putting in there mostly tend to be skirmishers and strikers.
Interesting. And it's funny, I said the JR7S, which is maybe the F is a striker, but typically an ambusher.
I consider that and like the Panther is both strikers. No, the Jenner would be a skirmisher. Is it? Okay.
It's a striker.
Well, then I was right, because I love that mech.
Because you got skirmisher is because we got the triangle, right? Damage, armor, mobility. Skirmisher's like in the middle. Ambusher is all damage, no armor.
Yep.
With lots of speed. What's a striker?
Not always. I think an urban mech is an ambusher. Like literally, because the only way to use it properly is to have it as a hidden unit.
That's right. You heard it here. It works. Trash unless you use it right.
It works so well when you do that.
We're just legally an ambusher.
Legally an ambusher. What's the striker role for you?
Yeah, so I mean, like a Panther is definitely a striker. It doesn't have the mobility, but it has the big gun. Okay. I would prefer it a little bit faster, like that Phoenix Hawk 7K that I used against you, Dustin. Definitely a striker.
Okay, cool.
It's got 2 decent weapons, got tons of mobility. Maybe not that much armor, but its armor is its speed.
Yeah. But it's not a glass. It has some armor though.
It does have some, but its main role is to jump around the battlefield and be a threat. So you're saying you start with your striker and you kind of fill in from there. It depends. Like what I said up at the beginning is that I go mission specific. What am I building it for? And the mech that I think can fill the mission parameters properly is the main one that I focus on, and then I build the supporting units around that.
Oh, okay. So you won't necessarily start with the striker.
No, because is the mission going to be to blow up the other side? Is it going to be to run in and grab something? Is it
defend
going
the city?
Is it a defend mission? For tournaments, it makes it hard because you don't always know what mission you're going to take. Therefore, it has to be balanced.
We're dropping blind, boys.
Yeah,
get your take all comer.
Take all comers list. Josh, how about you?
I mean, I'm going to speak more to the take all comer.
Right.
You need, I want to say one of each. Like there are discrete roles for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And that is like because a list works best when it has a general list works best when it has general purpose mechs. Like an ambusher may be the one you don't need. Like
because I mean I don't want to get it all bogged down by like sideboards and stuff, and that just build a unit that's going to be decent at everything, and hope that it's decenter than somebody who's got like a more specialized one who might win like that one mission type, but the other 3 mission types he won't be as good.
I mean, like I said, I always try to take a brawler.
One brawler. This man says. I always try to take a brawler. How about 3? How about 3 brawlers?
The mongoose is not a brawler.
What?
No. I mean, the way I use it.
That's true.
I would consider a mongoose a striker. Super fast, does a lot of damage.
And
it lives
I
on
have 2
mobility.
brawlers in my go-to list. the I will say the mech that I thought was definitely a brawler is not considered a brawler. So legally, I take 2. Spiritually, I take 3.
Yeah.
I tend to forget to put a brawler in. Like, I know that's the next thing. I always mean to have a brawler. I always want to have a brawler. And then when I look at my list when I'm done, I'm like, nobody has enough armor. Everyone's got some speed. Nobody has enough armor.
And my anchor is not like a Battletech sanctioned type of mech, but typically the anchor it's a brawler. Like, for me, my anchor mech, quote unquote, is
it just helps because most brawlers have good armor, enough mobility that it can, keep up with a fight, and good damage output that it's not just only there to soak up hits.
Right.
Yeah, would not have considered a Lancelot to be a brawler.
Is it? It's a brawler?
The original version.
Okay.
The 4/6 one.
Yeah, and the roles change with the different variants, of course.
The Timberwolf, like the primary is a brawler, but I prefer the A, which is labeled as a skirmisher.
What? See, the A would definitely.
You would think it's got the same amount of armor
and what we're saying is the roles don't really matter.
I guess,
It's the rolls in your heart.
It's the rolls that you feel.
What are you using the mech for, not what is it listed as? That's correct.
We're entering the feeling zone.
Buckle up, kids.
Buckle up.
But yeah, so like I said, 3 brawlers and like a really fast scout is like a go-to for me, just because I can kind of push the opponent back. And that, Denham, you've seen this. I'm not scared to keep walking forward under fire.
But what happens when my skirmishers get behind you? Again,
that's what rear armor is for.
Yeah. Yes. Now we're brawling in all directions.
What's that phrase? You don't try to fight a pig in the mud or whatever. What's it go? Because you find out that the pig likes it or something.
But anyway.
Anyhow,
Zach hates that so much.
Come on, that's a good one.
Yeah, he hates it so much. He's like, please don't do the pig line.
Please don't give me the pig line.
But yes, so roles don't matter. It's how you use them.
Yeah.
But you, like I said, the one thing I would say is always have something that's just going to be up there to like at least start blocking, because mechs can't move through you. So you want something that can at least hold the position.
Yeah.
And something that can kind of respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, for the other half of the equation, it's how to pick the variants. We've picked mechs. Like, we like these, whether it be aesthetic or, the mech. A variant doesn't really change the role of a mech 100%. Like, it tweaks it.
It can change the battle value by a lot, though.
Oh, yeah, but it's like a Marauder isn't going to change into like a LRM sniper.
It shouldn't, but there are times when it does. What's an example I'm trying to think of? There's one that puts like LRMs on it for no reason. I don't like it. Hold on. Go on to Dustin while I remember what this is. It's the Awesome. It's the Awesome has 3 PPCs. Like, it's a sniper. It's there for a reason. And one of the variants has 2 LRM-15s and a large laser. Why make it an Awesome? It's something else entirely.
Yeah. And that's one of those ones where I think a lot of people don't take the different variants because it changes so much.
I know some people who love that variant, and I'm like, that's fine. You don't love an Awesome. You can't say I love an Awesome. My favorite one is the LRM one. You love a different mech. That one just happens to be called Awesome, but it's not an Awesome.
Yeah, this is tricky because 50% of the time I kind of want to stick within the spirit of the original mech, because that just makes it easier for me to remember my roles of my mechs on the battlefield. Something that we're thinking about tonight that this episode has kind of inspired me to think about is how I could kind of flip the script on my opponent and bring like the long range hunchback and the brawler mauler to really like just throw somebody off their balance.
All mechs are really brawlers. Let's first get that out.
I mean, they can all go forward, close the gap, and punch and kick. So
every mech has armor.
Yeah. Because Because I know personally that like if somebody brings like a really wacky variant of a mech and I'm like, God, dang it, I have to remember that this miniature that they have on the field doesn't actually behave like the one I'm used to. Like that can throw me off my balance. So that could be interesting in like a metagame sort of way to think about. But I'm a little fluffy when I play, so I kind of want to stick to the spirit. And maybe I'm holding myself back with that a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. It makes it fun. Like I like, it goes back to fluff. I do like picking a faction and trying to stay within faction loosely. Like I'm not going to gimp myself if there's a, if I'm playing Krita, but there's a Merrick variant that's really, really, really the one I want. I will totally take it and
you take that M
and say it's salvage. But I won't do that often. I will only do that if I cannot come up with anything else that fits. Which I guess brings us to the other thing. When doing tournaments, should tournaments be faction locked when you're building a list? I know that's an easy question that everybody's got an answer for, right?
I mean,
why do you do this?
What
have you done? How do I pick the right variant for a mech? So like I've chosen the aesthetic for
right.
Like to me that most mechs, if that chassis is available to a faction, I kind of consider almost all the variants, unless it's like specific for this one battle. Like
yeah, I'm similar. Yep.
Yeah. Variants are more open to me. I try to stick with things like you said that are kind of embrace the original intro tech version of the mechs. So like I've probably put hours in on the intro text one, so I kind of know how to run the new one.
Yeah.
Like I ran an exterminator without the jump jets, and I was like, I don't know what to do, guys.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean, there's a hunchback variant out there that is like runs 6'9". Like, yeah.
Black Knight Clanbuster that I use in my Krita army often, because on Sarna they mentioned that like 8 of these were sold to the Draconis Combine at some point, and I'm like, Mike, I happen to get one of these. Yep. I mean, the 8 of them are out there.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't restrict myself so much with the like the M or the K's or the the D's or whatever. I move my variants around to adjust for battle value a lot, if I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I got a mech or a miniature that I painted up. It looks sweet. And I'm just like, whew, wow, 2,300 value. Where's the cheap one? Give me there we go. 1,800. That's the discount I'm looking for.
No, that's very true. I mean, in my ways, it's like, I want the Black Knight in a list.
Yeah.
There are different levels of, BV. Like there's a 500 BV spread between all of them. It's like, okay, if I need a mission specific thing supremely, well, I can take the cheap Black Knight and still be happy in my feelings.
Yeah. Crazy Eddie's discount Black Knight storage.
That's right.
Gosh, we're playing an Ilclan era. What is that Black Knight 7 doing on the field? It's like
it's only got
it was on sale. Don't talk to me.
It's only got one arm and the left leg has 0 armor.
The Avalanche comes immediately to my mind because I've got this first sort of light, and I've got a lot of Dark Age mechs in there. The Avalanche, obviously, and there's one variant of the Avalanche that's like 1,500 battle value, which is very normal for like a 50, 55 ton, I forget what it is, medium mech. And the rest of them are like at least 2K, probably 2.2, 2.3. And I'm just, there's only one version I ever use because I'm just like, oh man, I'm going to use 2,300 BV on a, medium mech. So yeah, I'm shopping around. That's probably second to the roll, like talking the hunchback, the fast hunchback. I don't want a fast hunchback. That's weird. It's not natural. And then I go with, the battle value after that, to be honest.
Picking the right variant is more about what BVs am I squeezing the mechs into. Is that the right?
Yeah, I have this mini now. How can I fit it in to the puzzle with the BV that I've got?
Man. But we know this is the wrong answer deep down. Like we all know this isn't the right way to do it.
This is great because I've got all kinds of ideas. I gotta make my jokes on you list where all the mechs don't even all the variants don't even remotely behave like the originals. You know, that 6'9" Hunchback or whatever.
I think what Josh is saying is that, you know, this is open to opinion and personal how people's brains work. So there is no wrong answer, but also there's no right answer.
The right answer is whatever wins.
But what wins? I mean, for me, I will say this: what I do very well in pickup games with is all energy lances.
That's true.
I will pick variants that have no ammunition, specifically because I don't have to track it. So that's mental fatigue taken out of the game. I'm only worried about heat, and most of those lists are going to be, you know, relatively heat stable because you've taken out all your autocannons and missile launchers. And I can kind of stage my forces and dictate the engagement at specific ranges, like large laser, PPC range, medium laser range, and, you know, other. That is I will try to find variants that are energy dependent rather than ammo dependent.
I mean, I'll let you know what works when I start winning.
Another thing is, if I'm trying to build like the list around a certain gimmick, like if I want something that throws out a lot of heat because I know heat's going to disrupt my opponent and throw more mental fatigue and more, you know, difficult choices on them, I'll take variants that have like plasma or flame or something like that. Like, okay, that is where, okay, I'm now not as much searching for mechs. If I'm running a gimmick list, I'll search for variants that run the kind of tech that I'm looking for. And then I'll look, of course, okay, here's advanced search mega mech, find thing with plasma cannon. Then, okay, these are my options. Then I'm looking at my collection. What mechs do I have? And then I'll kind of like, okay, 3 out of the 4 of these work for a good list.
Yeah. So the Jenner, like I love playing Jenners. And if I bring a Jenner to a tournament, they're too hot to fire everything. Yeah. So I always put Inferno rounds in for the SRM4. And I just use it as a medium laser boat unless like a mech is running hot, and then I'll run up and not fire 2 of the lasers and just hit him with as many Infernos as I can to punish him for that.
Nice.
Denham, you've played a lot of BattleTech. You're a little quiet on the how to pick variants.
Like I said, you know, my variant picking.
How do you fight decision paralysis with, you know, 50 Marauder chassis?
Oh, I run out of time. That's what I do. It's that whole, you know, don't do the paper until the night before, and then your brain kicks into overdrive, because then when time is of the essence, then I get that moment of clarity.
This man has ADD.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That moment of clarity often says, I have this mini, so I want that chassis. The variant is what fits in my. Now, if it's not the core of the unit, I have that picked out beforehand. Okay. If I'm having a problem with a variant, it's because it's a supporting mech. So I have a little bit of limitations on battle value anyway. So the variant tends to be, I want this chassis. What variant fits into my BV profile? And like I said before, I'm okay with going a little bit low on the BV. I'm not going to lemon squeeze that sucker and take a variant that I don't like just because it fits better. I will look at the ones that fit and pick the one that supports my main unit the best.
Okay.
If everything else is everything else being equal, I will take whatever faction fluff that I have chosen. So if it's Karita, I will try to find a K variant of it that works first, and then go from there.
We are all Inner Sphere players at heart, whether we like it or not.
That's what we all start with.
Exactly. But for clan players, with the Omni mech, or with the Omni, you know, options, those are probably the most varied. Like we all kind of said, Black Knights are all Black Knights throughout the the eras. Omni mechs, though, are completely different. Like
by design, they're supposed to be able to completely turn into different roles.
That's true.
You know, within a few minutes.
So how do we pick the correct Omni mech?
And when you're dealing with Omni mechs, do you allow people to fill the pod space with things that they want, or do they have to be from the book?
Let's talk from the pickup game perspective.
Okay.
And this is sort of tangential for tonight's episode, but if you can work in the chassis and then pick the variant of your Omni mech before you drop situation. That's flavorful. Very nice. I like it.
Well, that's great for role-playing stuff. That does not
right.
work for balancing any sort of a pickup game.
Oh, of course not. Yeah. It seems like the theme of the night is like
pick your favorite one.
Playing. Well, we're leaning to winning, playing competitive, right?
Right. So assume that you'll be going up against another clan force in this situation.
Clan mechs do mobility well. I try to lean into that, with the exception of the I just have to have an anchor mech. Even when I'm playing a clan game, I want something that's clan mechs are going to have decent mobility to start with, but something with some good armor, and that's not too expensive.
Almost every clan heavy has, the armor of a heavy mech, the weapons of an inner sphere assault mech, and the speed of an inner sphere medium mech. Like they're just better.
So yeah, stay clan mechs. You love to have your snipers, but you still got to kind of shy away from that. Apply your mobility, because that's your advantage. Your speed is your armor, because you're bringing that summoner, you're bringing that Loki, that Thor.
Well, armor is the one advantage as a clan player does not have, because armor is armor, where clan get the faster mechs and the better weapons
per the BV.
But they're still limited. A heavy clan mech still has the same armor limitations as a heavy inner sphere mech, so they do need to use that speed. But how do you pick the variant? It depends on the mission, or just make sure, like Josh says, that you've got a well-rounded team that can handle a jack of all trades. Like they can handle a little bit of everything.
You still got the flexibility. I might lean a little heavier on the long range stuff because the mobility is assumed with clan chassis.
I'm going to go with the opposite and say you want some
brawler.
No, just because if you're playing clan versus clan, I want to say it almost doesn't matter.
Right. If it's clan v clan, yeah.
It's clan v clan, then, there's going to be elemental delivery system, and you're picking a variant that either is cheap enough that it carries the battle armor, doesn't care if it does anything else.
Right.
Or you're picking something that's like purely efficient to now it's jumping behind, like the Vipers and stuff.
Yeah.
Or you take your brawler that's going to take all the damage and make sure all its weapons are in its arms, and you also have it carry battle armor just to soak up more damage.
There you go.
Don't bother ever dropping them.
Oh, yes. The meat shields.
That's right. I mean, it's a potential 55 extra points of armor.
Yeah. It's not insignificant, I'll say that. But when you're playing clan versus sphere, definitely try to have one or two just clan brawlers. I'm saying this in quotation marks as much as possible, because the inner sphere is going to try to get close to you. So you want something that's going to get closer to them, close for clan, and just completely dunk on them.
Yeah, 15 hexes away. Super close.
Also, you're probably going to be playing a mission, so you want something that can get close to the mission and just start screening hey, yeah, get within 5 hexes of me. I dare you.
Don't get me wrong. The anchor role is still there when I make a clan list. And if you've listened to prior episodes, it's the Gargoyle Prime, but it does its job. Yeah, but you still have to be able to take the field. And if you're always running and sniping, you can't do that, even with clan mechs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough question, Josh. It's a tough question that doesn't have a distinct, defined answer. You have to just play around with it and see what works. So, give it 20 different games.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a better idea of what works and what doesn't.
I mean, my inner sphere to clan games are 2-1. Let's be real. When I figure it out, I'll let you know.
You need to play more.
I do. Yeah, let me tell you, I need to.
But I will say, if you're doing clan, you're probably filling with BV restrictions more than most. So you're having to pick variants that are cheaper. This Mad Cat variant would do a lot more damage, but good luck, bringing that to the table.
And you can't, since they're clan mechs, you can't just say, well, let me take a lighter mech here, because so many of the mechs, no matter the weight class, are 3,000 plus BV. So, you just have to take worse variants. I'm just going to play this one without my left arm. There you go.
Like I said, this is the opinion piece episode of how to pick mechs, how to pick variants, and I think we can really boil this down to pick for aesthetics, pick for balance, pick for fluff, pick for the BV because
pick for the mission.
Pick for the mission, and then pick what's kind of available. Like, I don't know. Don't take stuff that you're not going to want to play.
Yeah. It's got to be fun.
Yeah, pick to have fun. No regrets.
All right. And for our Lance of the Week, we have a fan Lance finally. Come on, guys. Every time. Like, I know it takes like a while for these HPGs to go out, but seriously. But
it's not Grey Monday yet, people.
Yeah. Colton Mercer writes, "Hey, Mechbay. Overall, Lance BV with fully networked C3 is 7460 out of a target of 7500. I made it nice and fluffy using C3 enabled mechs available to the Orient Protectorate / Free Worlds League in the Dark Age, leading to the Ill Clan era. Something one would likely find with the last Fusiliers of Orient, the Orient Ducal Guard. Quote, shout out to Dustin as a fellow leaguer." All right, so let's take a look at this list that they sent. We've got a Battlemaster M3 with the C3 Master. That's a 1976. We've got the Warhammer 10 CT, and that is Gunnery 4, Piloting 4 at 2266 with C3 Slave. Crusader 6M with 1675, and a Phoenix Hawk 7K for 1543. All right, so what do we think about this?
Right off the bat, as a C3 unit, Phoenix Hawk 7K, I love it. Like it is a great C3 mech.
This rings a bell. Is this the one you brought?
100%. It's the one.
That was a nice variant. Yeah, and 1543 with the CV or with the C3 battle value added in. Well, that's cheap for what it does.
Yeah, it walks 6, it runs 9, and it jumps 9, which is super important because it's not always there to actually do any damage. It's there to jump into range. It's there to jump into range so that all the other mechs are at short range for them. It is a very fast mech. It has some armor. And with that snub nose PPC, as long as it's within 9, it does that 10 damage. It's a nice mech. I really, really like it. And that's that striker that I always like to take a striker and a skirmisher. Mm-hmm. That's one of my preferred. And being it's a Creed variant, icing on the cupcake.
So I have to point out that the Warhammer is the most expensive thing in here. We think like it's got 2 stub nose, 2 ER mediums, 2 medium pulse, and a streak SRM6. Like it is a normal Warhammer that has told itself that I'm a brawler now with max armor.
Problem I have with that particular Warhammer is that it is tied with the Battlemaster for being the slowest. It does have okay range, but its longest range is only 15, and at 15. Even if you've got someone closer to negate the range modifiers, the Sumnose PPC still only does 5 points at anything above 9.
You still pick up that. So is this Battlemaster 460, Warhammer 460, Crusaders what, 580?
No, the Crusader is a 355. So it's slow for walking and running, but it's mobile. It's got the jump jets. I improved jump jets.
Yeah, speaking of variants that break the mold, this is an interesting Crusader.
Yeah, that's the one that Crusader and the Phoenix Hawk are going to work together to get the ranges for the Battlemaster and Warhammer. I really think that the weak link in this Lance is that Warhammer, and it's the most expensive. So it kind of, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that out of the 4, like the Crusader and Phoenix Hawk and Battlemaster would work so well together. And the Warhammer just needs something a little bit faster or something that does a bit more damage at long range because it's just not fast enough to close in. It's got,
Is there any ECM on this list?
No, I was going to get to that later.
So I learned in my game with you that ECM is king.
Yeah, you need to have at least one ECM, either to counter something.
Yeah, I was going to say that's more to counter though, isn't it?
Right. Well, it's to counter their EC, to counter their C3, or if they don't have C3 and they have ECM and you're using those rules, it's to counter their ECM that's countering your C3. But I wasn't I was going to put that on as an afterthought type thing because that's not what this list building is about. It's about how well they work together, and I think that 3 of them are fantastic, and that Warhammer could probably use either more range or more speed.
Did you say that Warhammer variant has more armor, especially in the legs?
No, I was going to say
Max
it has medium pulse lasers, which
max armor?
Yeah, max armor 217, like
Yeah.
Pharaoh.
Yep.
I mean,
And it's
you
got a
could do,
targeting computer, so
it does.
it almost to me feels like it doesn't need the C3. Like it's
yeah, I'm a brawler now. I'm hearing
I'm
the
a-
face anyways.
If
Exactly.
it can get into, like, that's what I'm saying though. If it can get into range, because it only has 2 weapons at 15.
Well, what if you flip the script, right? The Warhammer's in the face and the Crusaders, without jumping everywhere is a little slow, but I mean, what is the 6 sim running? Is it still have the lerms?
If you can get the Warhammer in their face at 4.6,
Sure.
yeah.
At 460, yeah. And so that was one of the things that I was initially, what spoke to me about this list was that it was a little slow, especially for an Ill-Clan era when there's a lot of zippy stuff running around, except for that Phoenix Hawk 7K. The 7K, is going to be your welterweight. It's really in there. It's going to throw the punches. So maybe that'll pick up the slack. I don't know. I'd love to see it on the table,
Because the Battle Master is just as slow as the Warhammer, but its ranges go out to 25.
Yeah.
It can do much more damage at range than the Warhammer can. So it doesn't have to be as close. And the Warhammer is going to have to get in close, C3 or not. It just doesn't have the firepower at range.
I feel like this is a list that excels on a single board. And that's something we haven't really talked about. But if you're playing with a one map sheet, the game is completely different than if you're playing too long or too wide, too long.
Or 12 map sheets like you did last week. Josh.
Yeah, my game was 14K on the
12
new
map sheets.
BFM.
Yep.
There were 5 turns I didn't even shoot.
Yeah. It's so far away.
I'll never get that day back. But
You loved it.
Turns of walking.
Yeah, they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm not moving.
I'm defending the base.
Yeah,
come at me."
Anyways, yeah, I think this is a list that might do really good on a single map sheet.
Oh yeah, if you can corner the opponent with that, with the Warhammer and have the Warhammer and Crusader in there mixing it up while the Phoenix Hawk jumps to the back and the Battlemaster snipes, it's like everything would just crumple. There's no way. Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's very much a brawly C3 without the mobility. So if you're going against another brawly list, it probably will come out on top just from pure like MML 7 streaks, 4 streak SSR and 6s. Like Sweet Blake, it's doing a lot of damage and it's probably hitting, at 6s and 7s because nobody's moving that fast. But I do see it struggling against, high TMM Ill-Clan era, especially mixed tech list. Yeah, this isn't mixed tech. This is old tech.
It's 3085 is old tech. I am so old.
Yeah, you are old. You are old.
What's the Jihad? This
is Jihad
50
right here.
years ago.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh
yeah, 70 years ago. That's generations, Denham.
It's a great list. I just see that this has problems. It's one that needs a little bit of updating depending on what the map is.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, take out that Warhammer, and you've got 2266 BV to put in something a little bit faster.
Yeah. Like I like the Crusader because that can do short or long depending on what you need. Light PPCs, MML 7s, Phoenix Hawk. I mean, those two are both going to be jumping. So really, it's a 5/5 for the Crusader.
Oh, put a dragon in there instead of the Warhammer. That dragon brawler I had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to take into that this is a Merrick list.
Oh,
what is our resident Merrick person say that the quintessential Merrick mech should be in place of the Warhammer?
Maybe a guillotine or Star League mech of choice. You can throw your Victor in there. There's some long range Victors. There's a heavy Gauss Victor. An Awesome has the range. You reach out and touch.
Yeah. So it's either got to have speed or more range, and an Awesome would have the range.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the Victor is an interesting package because it brings the punch and the speed. There's probably a later tech Victor that's a little faster. 464 isn't that fast, to be fair. So,
not in the Ill-Clan era. It's not.
No, it's definitely not. That's slow.
We're now into the what is it? supercharger and
Mask version.
mask. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with my later tech victors, so
Overall, good list, bad list.
Oh yeah, good list.
good
Yeah.
list. Yeah.
This needs a little bit of polish, but I think it's great.
And as always, the proof is on the table.
True.
Yeah. If you're kicking your local metas, butts with it, like don't change it. Don't change it for us.
Yep.
If you're taking it somewhere else, taking it on the road, watch out. Someone can snipe you. Someone can outpace you. But everyone, all your listeners, keep sending your list. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to pick them apart and armchair general them.
Well, that's it for us today, folks. Check us out on Facebook at the Mechbay Podcast. Join us on the Discord for Battletech-related discussion. Send us your questions and comments at the Mechbay Podcast at gmail.com. As always, many thanks to our supporters. Because of you all, we were able to head over to Canopus 4 to gamble and relax and stuff.
R&R.
Say hi to Cinnamon for me.
That's right. It happens in the Magistracy of Canopus, stays in the Magistracy of Canopus.
I don't know why I hate Sayla so much.
Why do I hang out with these nerds?
Yeah. As I literally told another BattleTech podcast, I'm just here for the dice, people.
As you told me, this podcast, you do it out of hate, not out of love.
It's true, though. It's honestly true. Oh.